Okay, so this happened to me when I was about 18 in a college in a small town in the South. I had a terrible college experience in general, but this just added to the shit show that was my first year. To set the scene, I lived in a soup building with a parking garage attached to it. There were probably 4 or 5 levels to the garage. At the top of this parking garage there was a ground level. The suit building was maybe a 5-minute walk down a sidewalk to the entrance of the suits. There was a little room with windows that housed the elevator close to the sidewalk. My boyfriend at the time lived off campus. I hated being on campus so much, for reasons I will not go into now, that I spent a lot of time at his house in a neighboring town. I had an 8 a.m. class, so I would usually go back to my suit at some point in the night/early morning. One night, I got back around 2 a.m. The parking garage was pretty full at this time, and I had to park at the end furthest from the building, closest to the ramp that went to the lower level. I am terrified of being inside parking garages, so I always parked up on top. It was pretty dark, and I usually would call my sister and my boyfriend if I ever got spooked. But this night was normal, and I didn't feel the need to bother anyone so late. I was almost to the sidewalk when I noticed someone in the little room where the elevator was. They had been behind a wall, but I saw them emerge. He had just come out of the elevator as I would have seen the doors open through the windows. And I didn't get a great look at the person, but I could tell that this was a middle-aged man, and I found it odd that he was on campus so late, as of all the people in the building were young and mainly freshmen. I tried my best to just ignore the person and continue on my way, but I reached the sidewalk, maybe about 20 feet from the little room. He came out and started walking behind me. I tried to be rational and not freak, but the further I walked, the more I realized he was getting closer to me. There was one of those posts where you could hit a button for campus police, but something inside of me told me that I had to not let him know that I knew he was there, and that he was scaring me. In a few seconds' time, I had to make a decision. I just started sprinting down the sidewalk. I immediately heard him pick up his speed and start running as well. He was chasing me. There was 3 entrances to the building, and I usually used the furthest one because my room was on the far side of the building. But as soon as I got to the first entrance, I quickly swiped up my card. I entered and slammed the door shut behind me. He was right on the other side of that door. He made eye contact for a second or two, then ran the other way away from view. I was so fucking scared, and to this day, I wonder what his intentions were. It's probably best that I didn't find out. The next morning, I woke up to an email about a strange man that had been spotted on campus. It still gives me the creeps when I think about it. A bit of background info. Please read, as I promise it's important. I used to live in an apartment building in a major city in Canada. This apartment building had 13 floors. Basement, first, second, third, fourth, and so on up all the way to 12. The laundry room was in the basement, and I lived on the 6th floor at this time. There are 3 staircases that go to the basement. One on the left of the building, one on the right besides the entrance to the laundry room, and one down a long hallway that leads to the right side of the building. There are also 3 elevators, 2 that go down to the basement, and one that is a service elevator and requires a key to operate. One last thing, the door to the laundry room requires a key to open. Also, I left my phone upstairs with my roommate as I didn't think I would need it. Sorry for that, but I promise it's important. Now on to the story. Part 1, my side. It was the weekend I had to do laundry. I took the laundry down to the laundry room and noticed that there were no washers or dryers going. That was odd, as it was the weekend, because normally it would be packed. I started putting laundry in when I heard a knocking on the door. That's weird, I thought. I got a strange feeling, so I decided to go down and look who was knocking on the door. As I looked through the window, I saw a man about 35 just standing there. I guess he saw me and said, "Hey, you, can you open this door for me?" I asked him why he didn't have a key. He said he had left his keys in there and couldn't get back in. I understood what that felt like, as I had done it on multiple times, but I didn't believe him. Want to know why? Because I said I would get his keys for him, trying to be nice, and he got a panicked look on his face. But that, not all. When I asked him where he'd left them, he said, on top of the dryer. Number 1. I replied, "The one running?" "Yeah." Remember earlier when I said that none of the washers or dryers were running but mine? That was still true. I quickly told him that I didn't see them, and he walked away. I waited 5 minutes to make sure he was gone, and I quickly ran down the hallway to the staircase on the right, thinking that would be the safest bet to avoid him. Part 2, my roommate's side. My roommate, let's call her Sarah. noticed I was taking a while and decided to check if I was okay. She took the elevator down when it stopped at the 3rd floor. Guess who got on? The creepy guy. Look, I have no idea how or why he went to the 3rd floor, but upon describing him, she told me this. He asked her if she was going down to the basement, and my friend said yes. He asked her why, and her getting creeped out, looked through her purse and said, "Oh, I forgot my keys." He asked her what floor she lived on, and her thinking quickly said the 9th floor. He started making weird comments, Sarah said. He asked me how many dogs I've killed and weird fucking shit like that. She didn't even go to the 9th floor and ran out of the elevator. I don't think he followed her, but if he did, she definitely lost him. She ran down like 4 stories on one staircase and then ran up 2 stories on another and used a service elevator to go down 1 floor. When she got back, she was shaken, and then she started explaining what happened. To sum it all up, a creepy guy lied about being locked out so he could do God knows what, then scared my roommate. When I was 2 years old, my mother used to set me on the counter in the bathroom while she did her makeup and hair to keep an eye on me in the mornings. She often said I liked to make faces in the mirror and giggle at myself like a normal toddler. However, one morning she said I was looking into the mirror, which was opposite of the bathtub. I smiled and pointed into the mirror, which reflected the opposite side of the room, and she asked me what I was pointing at, and I replied, "There's a man in the bathtub." This didn't set her alarm because she could see there was no other person in the bathroom except for us. Besides, a 2-year-old has an active imagination. She thought nothing of it until some time later. 2 years later, when I was 4 and my younger brother was 2, my mother had my brother in the bathroom with her. He sat on the counter like I had before, only he didn't often look in the mirror. He would play with my mom's makeup brushes or powders while she was doing her makeup and hair. One day, while sitting on the counter, he dropped the brush he had been playing with and started giggling. My mom asked him why he was laughing, noticing that he was staring directly behind her. "Mama, there's a man in the bathtub," he said, pointing to the part of the room behind her. My mother instantly froze in horror, recalling the time I'd mentioned this thing to her 2 years prior. She turned around expecting to find a person standing behind her, but found nothing. She is convinced to this day that children are able to see things that adults can no longer see. And my brother and I saw the ghost of a man who had passed away in the house from a heart attack years before we moved in. However, before hearing this story, for some reason, every time I was in the bathroom, I had to have the shower curtain open because of a never-ending feeling of being watched.